Welcome back. This is our 5th week. Yay. So, somebody tell me the ultimate objection of the class. Define your inner self, yeah. And basically we do that by looking at our own behavior. Absolutely, good answer. Until we look at our own behavior, until we address our own behavior and change our own behavior, nothing's going to change. We can't think other people are going to change. We can't think that things that somebody else is going to do will help us change. You have to change it. And nor can you change anybody else. They have to want to change. You know, we think so many times we're going to go in and be someone's hero or help someone, and how can we cure someone else when we can't even cure ourselves? How can we heal someone else when we can't even heal ourselves? So remember that. Look inside, see what you're made of. I think you'll all be very, very happy with what you find, with what you see. So last week, we talked about a few things. Let's back up here 1 second. It's when you look at it and you see something that's going on and you have to understand how you're feeling. You have to tap into those feelings. There's that scariness again, tapping into my own feelings, because we don't like to do that. But you have to then express what you're feeling and why you're feeling that way, and then maybe come up with a solution that everybody can live with, or a suggestion. They might have another suggestion, and you can compromise on something. Does that make sense? In your book, in your workbook, here's the other thing. Here's the other example that I had. Steve, I've noticed the kitchen has dishes in the sink in the mornings all the time. When I come down to the kitchen in the morning, I feel irritated because I need the kitchen we share to be clean in the mornings. Would you be willing to put your late night dishes in the dishwasher instead of leaving them in the sink all the time? They saw, they felt, they expressed that feeling, and then they had a solution, right? So instead of, so many times we just start talking without thinking, without feeling, or tapping into what we're feeling. We just go off, how do they say it, half-cocked? Because it hits a nerve, or because we're upset or angry. Well, take a second, take a deep breath, and figure out, why am I feeling this? What's making me feel this way? Why is this making me angry? I had you guys write down the 5 top things that triggered your anger. Why? Why do they do that? There's a reason why those things trigger your anger. So I invite you to write down, look at each one of those, and then write down and dig into that and understand why. Why does that make you feel angry? Why does that upset you so much? Why can that one thing just ignite you? What's gone on that makes that so much of a hot button for you? And that's what we're trying to do here. Notice something, understand what you're feeling, express what you're feeling, and then come up with a solution so you don't have to feel that way all the time. Make sense? I also want to just point out one more thing when we're talking about relationships and we're talking about communication. And you knew from the 2nd week, I believe, that sometimes we get in relationships, many of us get in relationships just because we don't want to be alone. We're afraid of being alone. We don't want to look at ourselves, afraid of what others might think, for whatever reason. But we just jump into relationships before we even really understand if we are compatible, if it's a healthy place for us to be. And the one thing I would like for you to take away is that you don't need just anyone in a relationship. So many times, especially in our society, we think it's a couples society, and we think we have to have somebody in our lives. You don't need anyone in your life. And until you understand who you are and start making healthy choices for you, it's probably best that you don't have someone in your life. When you bring someone in your life, it should be because you have a firm, strong foundation for who you are, and that person you're inviting in to enhance your life, not because you need someone in your life. Does that make sense? We all love to have partners. We all love to have people around us. That's human nature. But we just don't need to have anybody in our life. You invite people into your life. You know, like when you were a kid, a lot of parents tell their children, choose your friends, don't allow your friends to choose you. That's the same thing as an adult. Invite who you want into your life, not just because you want to be a part of that or a part of them or for whatever reason. You don't want to be alone. Okay, so we did the nonviolent communication. We're going to do this communication skills. We did the I statements. Remember the I statements? And it opens it up for communication. And like I said last week, The biggest thing about I statements, the greatest thing about I statements, is it helps you understand who you are. Because you are having to tap into those emotions. You have to tap into those feelings instead of just getting angry or jealous. Maybe you don't even know you're jealous until you say something like that and you're like, whoa, where did that come from? I didn't even realize I was jealous. And then you can understand why you were jealous. Drill down on that. So whenever we have a negative emotion or feeling, there's something that causes that. And we should really look at it and see where that comes from. So the I statements help us understand who we are. It helps us to respect one another and where we stand in the relationship. But it also makes us very vulnerable. Very vulnerable, because if I put all my emotions out here, this is how I feel. That's hard to do with a lot of people. This is how I feel, because we have those walls and we want to stay our emotions close to us. We don't want anybody in them, beyond those walls. So you're breaking those walls down, and you're saying, this is how I feel. This is who I am. Now what are we going to do? So you've just let your whole soul on the table, and they're either going to say, okay, I understand, and they're going to work with you, or they're going to say, I don't care. Through their actions or words, it's going to be, I don't care. And that tells you where you stand. But that might hurt. But at least you know where you stand. There's no guessing anymore. Make sense? Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense. It takes courage to do that. So the I statement. So the other thing we're going to talk about today is the 5 love languages. Has anybody ever heard about the 5 love languages? Nobody? Good. Then it's all going to be brand new. The 5 love languages, and these are really called out in your book too. This is really good. This is a great way to communicate when you meet someone, when you have a significant other. We're getting on 59. This is a great way to understand and communicate with your significant other, because this is Dr. Chapman. So Mr. Chapman says there's 5 universal ways that people express and interpret love. All right, so these 5 love languages. He says if you understand these 5 love languages and you speak these 5 love languages, your relationship is going to be much better because you're going to connect. And what he's talking about is, we're going to go through the 5 love languages, but let's just do that. He's got words of affirmation. Words of affirmation are for those people who prefer someone telling them. They like the words. They like to hear good things about themselves. I love you. Compliments all the time. The other side of that, somebody who has words of affirmation, negative words, or if insults, they cut really deep. They hurt twice as much as somebody who doesn't have that kind of a love language. Encouraging words like, you can do it. Go ahead, you can do it. You're beautiful. You look great. Thanks for loving me. Thanks for doing the dishes. Thanks for picking up all the time. Just little things like that. That's what they thrive on. They love that. And here's these talking honestly, right? I feel, see that one? I felt disappointed. You didn't let me finish talking. It makes me feel kind of small. They like that type of communication. They want to know, because they're a person that wants those words. So they want to know how you feel. That's how they relate. That's how they communicate. They would relate to, instead of getting angry that they're sweeping the floor, you're trying to watch a big ball game or something, and they're sweeping the floor, and you just get angry and you just storm out. Just say, can you sweep the floor when the game isn't on TV? Or can you pick this up at the store for me? Instead of getting just upset, why didn't you get this? If you just talk to them, that's what they need. They need for you to talk to them and tell them where you're at. Tell them how you feel. The second one we have, quality time. This is all about giving undivided attention. It doesn't mean sitting next to someone and playing video games. It doesn't mean sitting next to someone and being on your phone looking at messages. This means quality time. Go for a walk. Sit next to each other on the couch. Talk to each other. Spend time together. In doing this, you're going to have to learn how to talk. You're going to have to learn how to communicate, tell how you feel. Again, there's that communication. That's why that communication is so huge. The next one is receiving gifts. Some people like the little gifts all the time that they get. It says here, Dr. Chapman says, for some people, what makes them feel most love is receiving these little gifts. It doesn't matter what it cost. If you even found a beautiful flower out in the park and you just brought it over, that means a lot to them. Just the fact that you brought them something, that you thought of them, basically is what that's saying, is that you thought of them. If you have to go on a business trip and you just bring something back and give it to them, something small, insignificant, you thought of them while you were gone. That's what makes them tick. That's what makes them feel good and feel that they're important and feel stronger in the relationship. And sometimes that gift can be yourself. You know, hey, I'm going to take you away for the weekend. Hey, we're going to go for the, walk in the park today instead of that. Put that down. Let's just spend that together. That's a gift of yourself. That works too. The next one is acts of service. For these people, actions speak a lot louder than words. You can tell them all day long how much you love them. But if you're not doing little acts of service for them, they're not going to hear that at all. If you're not washing their car for them, or if you're not helping them pick up the house, or just lending a helping hand wherever. Acts of service, helping them out. Maybe even cook dinner or help with dinner. Those little things. That's what their main love language is. So that's when you're going to communicate. You can tell them all day long how much you love them. You can bring them all kinds of gifts. But if that's not their love language, that's not going to connect with them. They're going to oh yeah, thanks, and just kind of put it down. But if you went in and said, hey, do you need help with dinner? I'll help you. And start, peeling potatoes or something. They're going to think, oh my gosh. And it's really going to brighten their day. They're going to feel very loved and connected to you at that point in time. Physical touch. And this doesn't just mean sex. Physical touch. It speaks very deeply to the people who need that physical touch. Sit close to each other. How many of you, or do you know somebody when you walk by them, just put your hand on their shoulder? Hey, I know what's going on, or hey, how are you doing today? And just touch them. Touch them as you walk by. Just that little bit of touch, that's what they need. They need that touch around them. They need to feel touched. When you're sitting somewhere or talking to them, reach out and put your hand on their knee, or reach out and take their arm or take their hand. They need that physical touch. The other day I thought, I have a granddaughter who is I think this is her love language. I'm not really sure, but I know one thing. She was over at the house the other day, and they were all over them. I'm trying to think what it was. Anyway, we were together. And anyway, she was in the kitchen with me, and I just took her face like this, and I said, do you know how beautiful you are? I just love you so much. She just beamed. She just beamed because she loved that I was touching her, Just took her face, and she's 20 years old. And she just beamed. It made my heart feel good that she felt that good. So it's not just the intimate touching, it's any kind of touching if that's their love language. And a really good one for this one, if someone's grieving, they're the ones when they're grieving, they want to cry on your shoulder. They're the ones that want your arms around them. They want you there with them. They want you to be their rock. Absolutely. So those are the 5. So, like I said, so if you know your love language, you can relate that to your significant other. If you know their love language, then you know how to act and respond to them. Like I said, if I'm somebody who needs physical touch, and you're always buying me gifts, you're always taking me places, but you're never there, that's not going to mean anything to me. That's not going to mean anything to me. Unless you're speaking my love language, we're not going to connect. Does that make sense? And his book, if anybody ever wants to read his book is awesome because he's got all these different examples from cases that he worked on where they were almost divorced, they were already divorced, they got back together when they started speaking each other's love language because they just disconnect. How many people do you know, or how many times does this happen to you? You start off and you're really, really cool, you're in love, you're going to spend the rest of your life, and something fizzles out. Yeah, something fizzles out. You're like, what happened? There's this cold wall between us and I don't know what went on. Maybe you're not speaking each other's love language. Maybe that's all there is. You just need to find out what kind of love language they have. In your book on page 62, it tells you all the love languages. It tells you how to communicate, actions to take, and things to avoid. for that person in that love language. Remember that love is always a choice, and it's given freely. When you give love freely, it liberates the other person to give love for you. When you demand certain things in love, it shuts the other person down. You have to give and receive freely. You can discuss, you can debate, but when you give and take freely, very rarely will it come to an escalation of violence, escalate to the point where I have to be right, or I'm so angry at you, because you're beyond that. You're telling how you feel. You're telling them what you need. They're telling you what they want. Or even like last week, when they're speaking, when you get to know them well enough and their love language, you can say, oh, I understand. Is this what you're telling me you need? You already understand what they're trying to tell you. How great would that be? Pretty cool, huh? So, he calls it our love tanks. And he says that when our love tank's full, we tend to connect with people. When our love tanks are empty, we withdraw from people. And that makes sense. When you're not getting when you're not receiving what you need, then your love tank's going to be empty, right? When we criticize, he's saying always be careful. When someone criticizes, usually there has to be some kind of clarification that comes with that. You just don't criticize somebody and leave them there hanging. They don't understand where that's coming from. Usually there's something else and something needs to be cleared up. The criticism's just kind of like a Band-Aid. And you don't want to go deeper than that. You need to go deeper than that and figure out why that criticism is always there. What's going on? Be honest. You know, it could be something you could come home and sweep the floor every day. Sweep the floor, cook the meals every day. And then she's getting upset and she's criticizing you, like, really? You're going to do that again? I can't believe that. And you're thinking, oh my God, I can't believe it. And you're going to tell your buddies, I go in there and I work my back end off. And she's not appreciating anything. No, she's not appreciating it because that's not her love language. She might think it's nice, but what she's really want is, let's not sweep the floor tonight and let's go for a walk, if she's somebody that needs to have that connection with you. So you have to understand, just because you think you're doing something good, make sure it fits with that love language. Make sense? Yes. Yeah, it's kind of cool when you get to know it and we start thinking about it. So on page 64, there's a love language test, quiz. And I'd like for you to take it. Now, I understand some of you don't have your books. You know what, guys? I'm just going to give you this, and I'm going to have you read them, but put them on the answers on a separate sheet of paper. Okay? So it's pretty self-explanatory. And you know, just a suggestion. If you want to take this book home when you get out and have your significant other do this test, you might want to do the same thing. You might want to put your answers on a piece of paper instead of writing on the book. It's up to you. So I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to do this, maybe not quite that long. I'll look and see when everybody's done. And then after you're done, here's how you score. Right down here, sorry, Mike. Here's how you score, right down here. And then I also want you to answer the questions over here on page 67. So do the quiz, then answer the questions on page 67. Good, so when you get out, you can have your significant other take this, and then you can talk to each other, find out what your love languages are. So did you guys like this? It's very interesting. I think it's very interesting. It helps us with relationships. Absolutely. Go. Changing behavior patterns. This is where we stopped last week. We went through anger management, and we're going to start this week with aggressive versus assertive behavior. Aggressive is behavior that's not healthy, and it's always usually negative. Assertive behavior is positive behavior. Assertive people make healthy choices. And they make healthy choices by still being respectful for others. An aggressive person usually attacks or ignores the other person's point of view, stance, whatever you want to call it. It's like a wind tunnel up here. So assertive people, and basically it boils down to assertive people know who they are. Been talking about it for the last 5 weeks. Assertive people know who they are. They're sure They've got a sound foundation within themselves. They're comfortable with who they are. They make healthy choices. They don't have to cram their opinions down someone else's throat. They don't have to make you see it the way they see it. You disagree with me? Okay. Okay, I understand that. I don't agree, but I respect your opinion, you know? Whereas an aggressive person isn't going to see it that way. They're going to say, really? Is that the case? Really? You don't see it this way? Look at what's going on. And I don't want to get into a big discussion, but a really good way of looking at this is if you look at any TV, if you look at any news, if you look at any newspaper, articles in the book, or magazines, Facebook, wherever you're at, politics today is this way. It's this way as long as I can remember. It's more divided today than it has ever been before. People are on one side or the other, and they're always arguing. And aggressive people are going to try and make you see it. They're going to have to make you see that this person's right or wrong. They're going to have to make you see that this person isn't the right person, or make you see this person is the right person. In the past, what I've experienced, people would just say, well, you know, I feel this way. And they're like, yeah, well, I don't agree. But it seems like it's just hyphened right now. And the aggressive people are really, really cramming it down, where the assertive people are like, okay, I don't feel that way, but I understand where you're coming from. Does that make sense? Because those are two distinct sides. Absolutely. So assertive is healthy. Assertive means saying how you feel. We've been talking about that all these weeks. How you feel. Assertive people say how you feel. They don't hold it in. They don't make a grudge and just sit there and steam. You tell somebody how you feel. You tell somebody that hurts. You tell somebody you don't like that. You tell somebody you don't appreciate it. Because this is how it makes me feel. That's why I kind of don't like that, because this is how I feel. When you do that, when you do that, I feel this way. Make sense? When we communicate, it helps the relationships. Whether it's with a friend, a coworker, a significant other, it works in any relationship. You guys have got this in your packet. But I just want to go through some of them. An aggressive person interrupts and talks over others all the time. Does anybody know anybody like that?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, they always have to have their voice out there and just kind of putting everybody else, shoving everybody else's voice back. Whereas an assertive person just speaks openly. They don't have to speak loud. They just speak openly and state what they need or what they want or what they feel. An aggressive person glares and stares at others, whereas an assertive person just makes good eye contact. And I want to tell you this, because I have fired and hired both through my careers. When you go in for an interview, and I tell this because the first couple classes, I said, yeah, we like you to put that in there. So when you go in for a job interview, if you're not looking at me, if you're looking up there, over there, down there, do you think you're going to get the job? No. Because that tells me you're keeping something from me. You're lying. So you got to look at somebody. Now, don't glare at them and just stare at them, but you have to make eye contact once in a while and talk to them. Yeah, absolutely. Communicate. One last thing, then I'll get off that. When you go for a job interview, have it ready beforehand. But when you go for a job interview, have a thank you note. Pretty general. Handwritten, not on computer, handwritten. Thank you for the interview today. I hope I'm part of your team soon. And sign it. Don't let them see that, but the minute you get done with that interview, go mail it. I've been in 3 different times. It's come down to this person or this person. They're both qualified. We don't know. This person sent us a thank you note. And guess who got the job? The person who sent the thank you note. Just mail it right after the interview. That's all it has to say. Something like that. Just thank you for the interview today. I hope that I become part of your team. Absolutely. So that's what an assertive person would do.
That's good advice.
Yeah, that's what an assertive person would do. One other thing. If you go for a job interview, my time as an employer is very valuable. When I call you to let you know, I don't want to hear a prayer on your phone. I don't want to hear rap music on your phone. I don't want to hear this long extension of all this stuff. What I want to hear is, I'm sorry I can't come to the phone right now. Please leave a message. If you're waiting for an employer to call you back, change your message. Then when you get the job, change it back to whatever you want. So just some little tidbits when you go for a job. That's what an assertive person would do. So an aggressive person intimidates others, even with their expressions. How many times, I mean, we can all imagine that. Have you intimidated somebody with the way you looked at them? Or they you with the way you looked at them? Yeah, exactly, you know, scowl or mean, or you just look, you know, if you're in a significant other, you know, I knew in some of my relationships, if my husband gave me this look in his eye, I knew I was in trouble. I knew I was in trouble. You know, for a while, guys, I was the most timid person you would ever meet. You wouldn't know that now because I have grown so much. But I had an ex-husband who was so abusive, the one that was the assistant chief of police, my biggest abuser. He would take me, I thought it was love at first because he wanted to take me everywhere. I thought, this is so cool. He wants to be with me all the time. He just wanted to control me. He took me and picked me up everywhere. And when I worked at Allison's, when I first worked at Allison's, he would take me, and he would pick me up. I was so afraid. I was so afraid walking out of that plant at night. I would have my head down like this. Because if he even saw somebody, if you would come up to me and I might not even know you. You know how people just leave in masses, you know, they're leaving and you just say, have a good evening. If he saw a man speak to me, when I sat in that car, I'd get backhanded. That's how jealous he was. I learned that was his issues, not my issues. Not my issues. Yeah. We went to a police function one time, and I went to high school, ran into a guy I went to high school with. He came over and started talking to me. That was all it wrote. That was all she wrote, because we had to leave right then and there. We got in the car, and he threw my head up, you know, banged my head up against the car window and shattered the car window and cut my face. But that's how an aggressive person acts, not an assertive person. And aggressive is being kind. He had a lot of issues, not just that issue, but yeah. So those are some of the things that I dealt with because I wasn't looking at myself. I didn't think I deserved better. I thought that's all I deserved. Absolutely. So an aggressive person only considers their own feelings, and then they demand that of others. That's what we were just talking about. You know, they have to shove their opinion down your throat all the time. Where an assertive person speaks to the point. An aggressive person hurts others to avoid being hurt. They don't care who they hurt. They don't care who they step over. They don't care who they stab in the back. They don't care. That's a figure of speech. They don't care about anybody else. It's all about them. Whereas an assertive person tries to hurt no one, including themselves. You know, they're okay with going, you know what, that was wrong. You know what, I did that whole proposal, I did that whole project, and you just took it? Yeah, that's wrong. But am I going to get all bent out of shape about it? No. No. I learned karma's a beautiful thing. And it always comes around. It always comes around. I just let it go because it's going to come back. Anything you do comes back. It's going to come back and bite you. An aggressive person, I'm okay, you're not. That's how they look at things. I'm okay, you're not okay. So I got to tell you everything. I got to tell you how to think, what to say, what to do. Whereas an assertive person, I'm okay, you're okay. We're both okay. We just see things differently, and that's what makes life so beautiful. Can you imagine how dull life would be if we all thought the same way? It'd be pretty sad, wouldn't it? So that's what makes us so beautiful. So you can look at the rest of those when you're down, when we're done with the program. You guys are back in if you haven't already. Okay, so we're going to go on and talk about survival versus vision. Two huge things in your life, totally different. Survival is being stuck in the present, and vision's looking at the future. How cool is that? Survival is living for maintenance and control. Vision is always looking for possibilities and breakthroughs. How can I do better? How can I accomplish that? What's going on? You also have a paper like that in there. Looks like this. I love this, guys. Even to this day, after all that I've been through and all my therapy and all my healing and all my on the right path, whatever you want to say, I still look at this when my life gets kind of cattywampus. I'm like, okay, what's going on? What's going on here? So I go back and look at this. The left side of the column says life from survival is always about maintenance and control. And living from vision is about possibilities and breakthrough. So like the first one up here, we'll take the first two. Are you looking for it? Is it back there? It's not back there. You should have had this in your, oh yeah, it should be back there. If not, I'll get them. I'll get them and I'll copy them for everybody. All right, I'll get them and copy them. So this says, the first two, if you're living from survival, you're going to substitute trying and wishful thinking for commitment and constantly compare the present to the past. So you're always going to be going, oh man, I wished I could do that. If only this happened, I could do that. You know, it's always been this way, so it's always going to be that way. You know, so-and-so and so-and-so and my family history and so-and-so was always in jail. My grandfather was in jail. My father was in jail, or he was an alcoholic, so I know I'm going to be just destined to be that way. No, you set your own path. Substitute and wishful thinking. You know what, if this would happen, I could do that. If it wasn't for that, I could do that. There's always an excuse, right? Whereas living for vision, the possibilities and breakthrough, committed whatever it takes. And you're constantly comparing where you are with the next step. Okay, I've made it this far, now what's my next goal? Where am I going to go from here? And the only thing I can tell you here is this hit home with me when I became a supervisor on the floor of Allison's. I asked my supervisor, what does it take to become a supervisor on the floor? He said, well, there aren't any female supervisors. I didn't ask you that. What does it take to be a female supervisor on the floor? So he said, I got to check it out. So I said, all right. So he comes back and he says, well, you need a degree. Okay. All right. Even though most of the men out there don't have degrees, I understand. But I'm going to play their game. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to play your game. What do I need my degree in? Because I wasn't going to get the wrong degree and then have them come back and tell me I don't have the right degree. Okay. You need your degree in engineering. Anybody who knows me and is in my other class knows that math is not my strong suit, right? I hate math. I hate math. I had a teacher tell me when I was in, 4th or 5th grade that I was dumb in math and I would never amount to anything, and I shut down. I just shut down. I couldn't get decimals and percentages. I just shut down. You think I did it? You better believe I did it. Whatever it took. I was a single mom and I wanted to put food on the table for my son. Whatever it took, and I did. It was excruciating. I hired tutor, got ulcers, made it through my math classes. Do you think I remembered anything I learned in those math classes? Nope. Do you think I used anything I learned in those math classes? Nope. But I did it. No matter what they were going to put in front of me, I was determined I was going to make something of myself. And I was going to make an income, have bread on the table for my son. So I did it. So I got my degree, went in there, I said, here it is. Now what do I do? And I got the job. I don't brag on myself much. You've heard me talk about how I don't think I deserve anything when I was growing up. I do. This is the one time I do brag on myself, guys. Didn't know I had it in me. I was kicked out of 2 high schools, went to 3 different high schools. I was kicked out as an instigator. They told me that if I wasn't there, nobody would be in trouble, that I'm the one that talks everybody into doing bad things. But guess what? I went to school full time. I worked 2 jobs. I was raised, of course, I was lucky. My mother and father helped me with my son when I was working and going to school. That's a lot of hours. And I was carrying a full load, and I made the dean's list. That's pretty cool. That was pretty cool. That's one accomplishment I can say I'm really proud of. So, you have to decide in your life what it is, no matter what is put in front of you, you are going to go through it. You're not going around it anymore. You're going to go through it, whatever it takes to succeed and get that goal. You're going to do it. That's what living with vision is. How about someone from survival thinks in terms of right or wrong, should and shouldn'ts. I told you about the shouldn'ts, right? Don't say shouldn't anymore. Every time we say shouldn't, we just hit ourselves in the head mentally and say, I'm so stupid, and then you start believing that. Because if you should have made a different choice, you would have made a different choice. We're always right where we're supposed to be because there's lessons to learn. We made choices because that's what we wanted to do at the time. Now, learning from those choices is the key. Whereas somebody from vision realizes situations are neutral and they ask, what's my intention? And how can I contribute right now? What can I do right now to make things better, even in my own life, my own relationship, my children's life, work, whatever that situation is. We already talked a little bit about from survival, you're going to talk about your history determines your choices in the future. That is not true. Somebody from vision, my intentions. It's my intentions that determines my choices. It's me. Nothing that's happened in my family, nothing that's happened from anybody else, nothing that I have done in my past. It's my intentions right now at this moment where I'm going from here. That's what makes my future. I will get copies of these for you guys. The last one, living from survival, life's a burden. Oh my God, I got to get up again. Oh my God, I'm so depressed. Oh my God, I can't do it. Oh my God, blah, 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 blah. Life is an adventure if you're living from the other way, right? Life's always an adventure. Live from vision. Life's an adventure. Even in here, you wake up every day. Guess what? That's another 24 hours you can figure out what you're going to do with your life. That's another 24 hours to understand how beautiful. You've got this huge, especially in here, you've got this huge white canvas. You can paint whatever painting you want on there. That's your life. You can change, you can not change. You have all these times. You got journals when you came into this class. You've been given the greatest gift, one of the greatest gifts around, the gift of time. You've got all this time to sit and think, who am I? Where am I going? How do I get there? What do I need to do to change? What obstacles are in the way and how can I break those down? All these thinking, you've got all this time. Because when you're out there, you don't have that kind of luxury. So maybe you made choices to be here just for that reason, to have that time to think, to have that time. I'm not minimizing where you're at. I'm just saying if you want to see a silver lining, that might be a silver lining. And then we come with caring and controlling. Caring, helping someone to achieve their goals and dreams. Controlling, modifying someone's behavior for your good. That's controlling. Kind of like manipulating. It's manipulation gets into controlling, right? Because we're going to put things in order here and line them up so I come out on top. That hurts the other person. It doesn't help them. It hurts the other person because you're shutting them down in order for you to succeed and get what you want. And I mentioned this before, you know, people fear success far more than they feel failure. Because when we're successful, then we expect more from ourselves. When we're successful, people expect more from us. When we fail, we can just give up, just sit around and go, well, I'm a loser anyway, so why do I even need to try? That's an excuse. That's just an excuse so you don't have to do anything. Because no one has to be a failure. We can all do our best and stand up and go for goals. Please make choices on what's healthy for you. Now I want you to write something down for me. You can do it in your book anywhere there. I want you to write down your best attribute. Only you know that. What is your best attribute and what is your worst attribute? Because again, if you know these and you're looking at them, then you can change them, right? If you want, if you choose to. Everybody got it? You don't have to share those. Those are just for you. But just like your 5 things that make you angry, I want you to look at those and understand, even your worst attribute. Why is that my worst attribute? What is it about me? Why do I go there? Why do I do that? Because this whole class is all about looking at your past and where you started to shut down and put those walls up, right? All these things are ways of helping you break down those walls so that you can start making healthy choices. And more importantly, you can start seeing how beautiful you are and how much you deserve more than you give yourself right now. How much more respect you really do deserve. How much more of a healthy life you really do deserve. How much more of a healthy partner you really do deserve. Because trust me, I went years thinking I didn't deserve any better. So I know that feeling. It's not a good feeling. How much you matter. It's not good going to sleep at night. That's one of the reasons I started this program. You don't know how many nights when I was younger I cried myself to sleep thinking I didn't matter in this world. No matter what happens, nobody in this world would care if I lived or died. I went skydiving. Everybody's like, oh my God, graduated from high school, went skydiving on a dare. I did it. Everybody's like, oh my God, Lucia, you're so brave. You're so courageous. I'm not courageous. I didn't care if I lived or died. I truly didn't care. Yeah, I'll jump out of a plane. No big deal. What have I got to lose if I die? Nobody's going to miss me. Nobody's going to care. That's how I felt. That's how low I was. I know now that that was not right. That thinking was not right. My family would miss me. No. I was in the air 3 minutes. I was probably in the hospital 2 months. I landed wrong. So I was the only one landed target, but I landed wrong. So I threw out my whole back and hip and everything. But it was fun. I mean, it was a beautiful experience, but no, I would not do it again. And that was not on a buddy climb either, a buddy jump. That we were on our own on a static line. It was called Kelly's Field. Do you remember Kelly's Field out in Mooresville? And they gave you like 3 hours of training, and then they sent you up and pushed you out of an airplane. Pardon me? Yeah. They got shut down because so many people they had a couple of deaths, yeah, because you just don't, 3 hours isn't enough really. I learned later to jump out of an airplane. But my point was, I wasn't courageous. People saw me as being brave and courageous. I just didn't care. I just didn't care. Do what? So, caring and controlling. And your best trait, your worst trait. Think about that. And caring and controlling, like we talked about, I think the second week, it's a real fine line that both the man and the woman have to be aware of. Because when you care about somebody, that's a real fine line to go over into controlling. So communication has to come in. When your significant other or your buddy or somebody says, you know what, you're a little pushy here, you know what, I don't quite like that. Listen to them. It's not always about, no, this is the best thing. I was talking with a guy, and he wanted me to meet, that attended my class in prison, and he was out, and he wanted me to meet his fiance. He was all excited. He'd been out for 6 years, which is cool, never caught another case, never got in a fight again. Met a really nice girl. They were getting married, they were engaged, but there were some issues. And he said, can you come talk to both of us? I'm like, well, I'm not a counselor. He says, I know, but I really respect your opinion. I'm like, all right, that's cool. So I met her, and I knew instantly what the issues were. Every time she tried to talk or say something, he would say, well, no, this is what you need to do. And I'm like, you know better than that from the class. You can't keep telling her what to do. But he took it, he was okay with my class, and he was okay with everything. He didn't realize once he stepped into that, I'm going to be the husband mode, then he went back to, well, that's my responsibility. I'm supposed to be the one that says what happens in this family. Like, not to the point of shutting someone else down. They still have their own beliefs. They still have their own right to think the way they want to think. Does that make sense? You don't control her even though you're the head of the household. You don't control someone else. She left. They never got married. He didn't understand that. Yeah, he didn't understand that. He kept becoming more and more controlling because he thought that was his role. He still calls me once in a while and we talk about it. Yeah. So you have to let people be who they are. You can't control. And there's a real fine line between caring and controlling. Caring is a relationship where two people go together. They respect each other, all the things we've been talking about. They get each other's input. They communicate with each other. They say how they're feeling, not one person controlling and saying this is how it's going to be. No, you can't do that. No, you shouldn't do that. No, I know best. You don't know best. You don't know best all the time. You might sometimes, and then you present that and they're like, oh yeah, I didn't think about it. Yeah, I agree with you. But you don't know all the time. So that's a real fine line you got to be careful of. How about personal boundaries? Woohoo, yay! Love personal boundaries. Wish I knew them when I was young. I didn't, but I wished I did. Personal boundaries is, learning how to set boundaries is a vital part of who you are. It's a vital part of who you are. It's learning to own yourself, to know who you are. It's learning to respect yourself. So many of us do not respect ourselves or do not respect ourselves enough. And it's learning to love yourself. That's what happens when you create boundaries. It's pretty good. They coincide really well with the I statements. They coincide beautifully with the I statements. Knowing your boundaries is taking care of yourself. We have the right and the duty to take care of ourselves first. We have to be healthy before we can help others be healthy, right? We have to protect and nurture ourselves. We want to do well and we want to help others, and that's okay. We can help others all the time, just not to the point where we lose control of who we are. We lose our self-respect. We lose our self-centeredness. Then someone else has gotten control and we become their victim. Creating boundaries can be painful. They can be excruciating at times. Trust me, I know. Especially if you don't think that you're good enough and you're trying to go around and make everybody happy. To be able to say, no, I'm not doing that, that's pretty hard. That's especially, they're used to that, so they're going to come back at you and make you even feel worse about yourself, or try to. They're going to try to. There might be some hurt feelings, misunderstandings, but you have to learn to say, this far, no further. This is all the farther you can go with that. You cross that line, and you've crossed the line. We're not doing that. It means speaking up and expressing yourself. Let your preferences known, telling others who you are and what you need. All goes together with what we've been talking about, communicating. Setting boundaries lets go of outcome. Manipulation is when you have to have outcome. There's two parts to setting a boundary. Part one, describe the behavior that you find unacceptable. I find this behavior unacceptable. Remember last week I asked you to put down what you had to have in a relationship and what you definitely would not have in a relationship. That's helping you set boundaries. I will not tolerate ... No matter what, I can't have this in a relationship. Part two, describe what action or steps you're going to take to protect yourself if someone violates that boundary. And that's going to be different. There's going to be some things that maybe you're going to let them cross 2 or 3 times. There's going to be some things that, that wasn't that bad. I'm going to let it slide. But everybody's going to have that one ultimate, nope, you do it one time and we're done. That's it, period. But they're going to know that going into the relationship. That's why dating, getting to know someone, is so essential. It's so crucial. Instead of just going to bed and hopping in with somebody and saying, whoa, this is really good sex, let's get together and start living together. That's not what it's about. Very little of a relationship is based on sex. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying that your relationship is not built on that. There's a lot more factors go into that relationship than just lovemaking. Absolutely. That are harder to deal with. So you have to know your boundaries. Everyone's going to have that ultimate boundary. My ultimate boundary is infidelity. Of course, you know what I've been through. You know some of my story. But for me, if I'm in a committed relationship and I know that he's gone to bed with another woman, we're done. I don't even want to look at you again. Matter of fact, next time you come down the street, just pick your stuff up off the curb because I have no respect. But you would know that, right? But you would know that because I have trust issues. So yeah. So that's it for me. But we all have that, and you would know that because I've had people say in my class, well, that's kind of mean. No, that's not mean because before we committed, you would know that would be the consequences of that action. So that would be your choice. So that's where it goes. So we all have different levels, and we all have different ones. And what you were going to do, you have to ask yourself, what am I going to do if they cross that? That's not something you have to tell the other person. That's just something that you have to know. Now you have to tell them what your boundaries are, but you don't have to tell them how you're going to react. You can talk about it if it happens, but you don't have to tell them. Setting boundaries means taking responsibility. Being an adult, demanding equality and respect in a relationship. That's healthy. Setting boundaries reflects your right to say no to things that aren't right for you. It's not right. I don't want to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. That's setting a boundary. No, I'm not going to do it. It's about learning to take care of yourself no matter what happens. No matter what happens. You're going to take care of yourself first. It's about making healthy choices for you. Being able to tell people what's good for you and hold your ground. That's healthy. It's okay to have a Bill of Rights. It's okay before you get in a relationship. This is what I need. This is what I have to have. This is what I can't have. We've talked about that before. A contract in a relationship. And we've never been taught this growing up either, most of us. Not taught how to deal with that, the personal boundaries. We have our power by making these healthy choices. That is our power. When we look outside ourselves for self-worth and let others tell us who we are, what we need, what we don't need, we give away that power and we become their victims. The minute you let somebody define who you are, put your hand up and go, okay, I'll be your victim from now on because that's what you are. You're their victim. I talked last week about giving power away, about going out to eat. That story about going out to eat. I also shared the story about the guy that got out of prison, wanted to go to Cincinnati. Family wanted to go to Cincinnati. If he would have went, that would have been giving his power away to totally somebody else. Those aren't good. Those aren't good choices. They're not healthy choices. Not at all. Boundaries emerge when you learn to value, trust, and love yourself. Listen to yourself. That's when these values come up. That's when boundaries are starting to take form. Listen to who you are. Learn who you are. Know who you are. There's nobody that knows you better than yourself. Don't let somebody else define you. Here's some boundaries. It's not okay to hit me. It's not okay to hit me. It's not acceptable to cheat on me. I just mentioned that one. It's not okay to lie to me. Those are some common boundaries most people have. You know, they don't want to be lied to. They don't want to be hit. It's not okay to make fun of me. If you have to make fun of me, then why are you in my life? Or why do I allow you in my life is a better question. Why do I want to be around somebody who's constantly putting me down and making fun of me? It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Another one would be, let's say a buddy or cousin or somebody in the family wants to go do something that's illegal. And they're like, we just need a lookout. You know, we'll do it. We just need a lookout. We just need you to help us. No, I don't want to do that. Oh, come on. And they're going to goad you into trying to, they're going to make you feel guilty and try to come along with them. We need this. If we get caught, it's on you. No, it's not on me. It's not on me. I don't want to live that life anymore. I respect myself far too much to do something like that. I wished you wouldn't, but that's your choice. But you're not going to put that on me. That's a boundary. Because how many people in here have been talked into doing something because they felt they had to? Somebody's guilt them into doing something. Yeah, absolutely. I think probably all of us. It's okay to say, no, that's not good for me and I'm not doing it. And that's true with family too. It's harder with family, but that's true with family. Doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean I wouldn't be there. Tips for setting boundary. If you feel anger, rage, whining, feeling threatened, suffocated, or victimized, those are all huge red flags that you need to set boundaries. So look at your relationships, your past and your current, and find out if that was in there, how your relationships were, and what you need to change going into a new relationship if you do. Here's some tips for setting boundaries. When you set a boundary, do it clearly and preferably without anger. Don't set a boundary when you're angry. This should have been talked about in a very calm manner while you're dating, and it's not something that you do on a first date. You and I have a date, and I'm like, okay, here's a list of my boundaries, and here's a list of my financials. Now, can I have yours? It doesn't work that way. It's as you get to know people, as you get to meet them and understand them, that's when the boundaries emerge. And you're like, oh, I really like this person, but you know what, I can't live with that. That's when a lot of people make that choice. Even though they violate a boundary, they'd rather deal with that than be alone. It's much healthier to be alone than have somebody violate your boundary. Absolutely. How about you cannot simultaneously set a limit with someone and also take care of their feelings? You can't do that. You have to think about your boundaries, what's healthy for you. They may be hurt, they may be upset, they may be angry, but that's on them. That's their choice how they react. You can't control that. You can only control what's good for you, what's healthy for you. So you can't worry about how they're going to react to it. It's also not an excuse to manipulate somebody. Well, this is how I feel, and this is what we're going to, that's not what we're talking about. Do not confuse those two. Boundaries are what's healthy for you, not controlling someone else. When you first begin to set boundaries, you may feel ashamed and afraid, but ultimately the boundary does feel good because it's going to be really strange if you don't have boundaries. And you're going to have to think about them over and over. I still think about them. Somebody will say something like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that, you know. You know, my family handled my rape very well, my abuse very well. But it did split us up, you know. It brought out some good things because for the first time in my life, I have two sisters that I love dearly, and I know that I'm loved. I know that they're my best friends, and I can tell them anything. For once in my life, I can tell somebody, and I don't think they're going to treat me mean. But it also, I have two sisters over here that isolated themselves from the family. You know, they had different opinions, different thoughts. It wasn't that we always fought and argued. We would get together every Christmas, but it was just their opinion and our opinion. And just now, after all these years, just now we're finally getting back, and the family is finally one unit again, and we're talking about it without all of that aggressiveness. Because when it first came up, there was a lot of aggression in the room. You know, everybody had their own opinions, their own thoughts, and actually everybody pointed to me. Here I am already, and that's what so many people do with victims. I'm already hurt. I'm already ashamed. I'm already not clear what's going on. I'm already broken. And they're like, well, what do you want us to do about it? What do you think we should do? What do you want? What do you want? I don't know. I don't care. I can't tell you how to think. Don't ask me to fix this. Because they wanted me to fix it so it'd go away. That's usually why people want it fixed right now. Go forgive, 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 forgive. Because if you forgive, then everybody thinks it's going to go away. Forgiveness isn't something that easy. Forgiveness is something that has to come from within, very deep, and actually forgiveness is for you, not the other person. So you have to realize that. You can't worry about what they think and feel. Here's some boundaries. You don't have the right to tell me what to think or invalidate my feelings. I have a right to feel any way I want. Don't vent your anger on me. I'm not going to have it. When you're mad, don't come back and be angry at me and start yelling at me all the time. Don't take it on me. Don't come home and you know, I had an ex-husband, and I could not figure out the whole time I was married to him. It was the same guy, the policeman. I could not figure out the whole time I was married to him why he would do this. It was only after we were divorced I found out. Of course, he was assistant chief, and he would get called out all the time. But what I didn't understand is I would be home in bed, asleep, and he would come back 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and yank me out of bed, sound asleep, and yank me out and just start beating on me. And I could not figure out what I did wrong. I could not figure that out. Then after we were married, I found out he would go out with some buddies and drinking, and he would try to pick up a woman. When she turned him down, he would come home and take it out on me. That's what was going on. Crazy, isn't it? He vented his anger on me every time he got upset. He vented his anger on me, absolutely. This is mine. Ask if you want to use it. You just don't take things. I won't accept your belittling jokes or criticism towards me. We talked about that a little bit. If you have to criticize and belittle me, then why do I even have you in my life? And it never ceases to amaze me. Why do people even think they can make fun of someone at someone else's expense? If that's your way of making fun, you've got some issues. If that's your way of being funny, you've got some issues to deal with. At someone else's expense, that's not funny, and it's not nice. How about, I won't be disrespected. If you can't respect me, then stay away. It kind of goes with what I just said. You know, it's the same thing. If you can't respect me, then why are you even here? Why am I even with you? We don't work. We don't jive. How about, if we're wanting to have a working relationship, then we need honesty, respect in that relationship. Absolutely. I need communication when we have a misunderstanding. I can't deal with what I don't know. If there's a misunderstanding, we need to talk about it and communicate it and find out where the misunderstanding is and resolve it. I need openness and sharing in a relationship. You withholding information from me, it hurts our relationship. How many times has somebody known somebody, or even maybe your own relationships, where you've got something going on and your significant other's like, what's wrong with you? Nothing. I know something's wrong. What's wrong with you? Nothing. Just nothing. And you just get colder and colder and colder, and that wall goes up. Well, they're thinking it's them, and it's actually hurting that relationship. Even if it's something like, you know what, it's just something at work I need to deal with, or you know what, this is kind of, and just give them, surmise it, you know, but I really don't want to talk about it now. But it's not you, this is what it's about. Or maybe if you mention it, they might have some input that might help you not have all that stress. Ask directly for what you want. This shows others who you are. Be objective about others' behavior towards you without getting caught in their drama. Be objective, but do not get sucked into their drama. The minute you get sucked into someone else's drama, you become their victim. They control you. Maintain a bottom line. This is extremely important. Maintain a bottom line. Limit how many times you allow someone to say no, lie to you, disappoint you, or betray you before you admit the painful reality and just move on. So how many times are you going to allow somebody to cross that line before you say enough? This is too painful. Change the focus to trust from others to trusting yourself. Don't put yourself in someone else's hands. Don't do that. You know what's right for you. You know what's right for you. Trust yourself. I have a bunch of affirmation here, but I believe you've got them in your book. If people are abusive or disrespectful to me, I have the right to tell them to stop or avoid them altogether. That's an affirmation. I don't have to take abuse. I don't have to take abuse. I am pretty. I am pretty. I am smart. I am smart. You know, I've told those, I used to have little cards on my mirrors when I first started going to counseling, just like that. I am pretty. I am smart. I'm not fat. Because I heard that all my life, how ugly I was, how fat I was, how stupid I was, how nobody wanted me around. And you believe it. But you can believe the positive things too if you say them enough. I've even had people suggest that with your own voice, you make a tape of all positive things. And then when you're laying down, you listen to that, and subliminally, those will get into your mind. Because whatever you're told, you're going to believe, whether it's negative or positive. You're going to believe it. I have a right to stand up for myself. I'm going to go through these very quickly. I don't have to, this is a good one, I don't have to feel guilty for not behaving that others want me to behave. I don't have to feel guilty about that. I'm sure people in here have felt guilty about that. Somebody wants you to do something, you say no, and you feel kind of guilty about it. You don't have to feel guilty. If it's not right for you, it's not right for you. The one thing, I accept my right to my imperfections and shortcomings. And I don't feel guilty about not being perfect. I know I'm not perfect, and I know I have a lot of faults. But now I embrace those faults. They're not negatives. They're just me. They're a part of me. And that's what makes me beautiful. I am what I am, and what I am is beautiful. That's a beautiful affirmation. Tell yourself that every day. Repeat it with me. I am what I am, and what I am is beautiful. You guys say it. Yeah, you guys say it. Say it. Please say it. It's hard, isn't it? It's hard to tell yourself that you're good. I am what I am, and what I am is beautiful. Yeah. It feels foreign, doesn't it? You're not used to that. It took me a long time to say that. A lot of counseling to say that. A lot of counseling. I am what I am, and what I am is beautiful. And all I have is all I need. We're always looking out there. We're always looking out there. We're always looking at what we did or where we're going. All I have is all I need. I'm okay right where I am. I'm okay right where I am. The other thing I want to point out about this is know the other side of this too. We're talking about affirmations. We're talking about boundaries. There's another part to your boundaries. Know what you're not ready for. What you're not ready for. I have people all the time ask me in my class, well, you're teaching all this. Are you in a healthy relationship now? No. I mean, I am with my sisters. I am with friends. I'm finally realizing what friends are. I'm finally trusting friends. You guys okay? I'm finally trusting people, but I don't have a committed relationship now because I know me. It's not that I haven't had men in my life. I even had somebody ask me to marry him, and I loved him. I felt very strong towards him. I couldn't do that to him, and that's what I told him. He's still a very good friend. But I told him, I said, I cannot do that to you because I know me. I have huge trust issues. I would not do that to somebody. Would you want to get into a relationship with somebody who has horrible trust issues? I'm still working those out. So he's helping me work out the trust issues, but I'm not going to get in a committed relationship because I know me. Know who you are and what type of relationship you're going into. If you care about somebody else, why put them in a negative relationship? And that's kind of how I felt about that. I'm not going to bring somebody I care into a non-trusting relationship at the start. So you have to know who you are. Be honest with yourself. Don't just jump in because it feels good. There's many relationships that are going to feel good. There's a lot that goes on behind that. You can leave a job or a marriage. You don't have to communicate with family members or anybody. You don't have to communicate if you don't want to. But you can never, ever run from yourself and have a healthy relationship. It doesn't work that way. It's extremely important to own all your choices and to understand why you make your choices. That's the bottom line. Why do I make these choices? We have to communicate without blaming. Stop saying things like, you make me so angry, you hurt me, you make me crazy. Stop blaming and start speaking honestly. You make me so angry. That's putting it all on them. Why do they make you angry? Talk about it. Why do you allow them to make you angry? If you're constantly allowing someone to make you angry and you talk to them and they're making you angry, or they're doing things that are abusive and you talk to them and they're doing things to make you abusive to you, why are you there? It's not on them, it's on you. It's on you. We don't have the power over others. We only have the power over ourselves. Please don't let anybody control you, and please don't try to control someone else. No one can make you do anything. Blaming is not being responsible, and it's all about choices. Remember the I statements give us a voice and helps us understand who we are. Communicate well and always make choices on what's healthy for you. Please always make it what's healthy for you. Any questions on anything? Please, 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 always be kind to yourself. I think we are our own worst abusers. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Have a good day.